What's going on, guys? My name is Wade with Tech Daily. So with the new Samsung Galaxy S10 lineup out now, some of you might be thinking about upgrading from last year's S9 devices. To hopefully steer you in the right direction, in this video I'm going to talk about some of the improvements the S10 has over last year's phone, and I'll also tell you my thoughts on whether or not I think it's even worth it to upgrade at all. I'm going to be using the S9 Plus and S10 Plus in this video for the comparison, but much of what I talk about throughout the video here can also be applied to the standard S9 and S10 phones as well. So first things first, let's talk about the phones themselves. Physically, the devices aren't all that different from one another. Both the S9 and S10 retain that glass sandwich design with an aluminum frame. With this year's S10, you're getting slightly stronger glass for the front screen and the same Gorilla Glass 5 around back, but overall there wasn't a huge design change this year, at least at first glance. The housing and overall feel of both of these phones is very similar overall. Size-wise, specifically here with the Plus devices, the bodies are almost identical. Last year's S9 Plus is a tiny bit taller, a bit thicker, and actually about 14 grams heavier, which is kind of surprising, and might be the only noticeable difference holding these phones in your hand. Everything else about the body of these phones is set up nearly identical across both devices. Samsung didn't take anything away or even upgrade much, so you still have a headphone jack and USB-C port on the bottom along with dual stereo speakers. And these are actually a bit louder on the S10 Plus, but overall not a massive upgrade. You've got that dedicated Bixby button on the side that you can change now, which is great, and you still have expandable storage as well. So overall, you're still getting the same setup and features from a hardware standpoint with both of these phones. Beyond their similar form factors, the two most noticeable physical changes you'll see with the S10 Plus are the screen and the cameras. I'll talk about the camera upgrades in just a second, but the screen here is a pretty interesting change. The S10 Plus packs a larger 6.4-inch display in basically the same size body as the S9 Plus, which has a 6.2-inch display. Samsung is able to offer more screen real estate in the same form factor by decreasing the bezels just a bit, and also adding that hole punch cutout for the front-facing cameras rather than a full top bezel or notch. Now, you're not getting a huge amount of extra screen. It's actually just over a 4.5% difference in screen-to-body ratio, 84.2% for the S9 Plus and 88.9% on the S10 Plus. And I think more than anything, the display setup here is mostly going to be a matter of preference than anything else. You obviously have an even display with last year's phone, identical side bezels for the top and bottom and along the sides obviously as well. With the S10 Plus, the bottom bezel, at least to me, looks a little bit larger than the top, still slimmer than the S9 though, but that cutout up top might not be the best look for some people. I personally appreciate Samsung's creativity here in trying to solve the front-facing camera problem, if you can even call it a problem, but I also know some people prefer a more uniform look, so you'll have to decide what looks best for you. Beyond the size and shape of the displays, Samsung also upgraded the display technology just a bit with the S10 Plus with a new dynamic AMOLED screen. It's not a massive upgrade, but side by side, the S10 Plus looks a bit brighter, a bit sharper, and colors look just a bit better overall than on the S9 Plus. The screen on the S10 Plus also packs one more trick in the form of a new fingerprint sensor underneath the glass. This is still some relatively new technology, and it isn't as fast or as accurate as the fingerprint sensor on the back of the S9 Plus in my opinion. But I once again applaud Samsung for not dropping it completely and trying something different. Of course, with a new device, that also means some upgraded internal specs. The S10 Plus ships with either a Qualcomm Snapdragon 855 processor or the Exynos 9820 depending on what country you're from, either the Adreno 640 or MP12 GPU, 8GB or 12GB of RAM depending on what model you go with, and 128, 512, or 1TB of storage, once again depending on what you go with. And you still have expandable storage on the S10 Plus of course, so no worries there if you do end up getting the smaller storage options. Obviously, all these specs are top of the line for a 2019 flagship smartphone, and an upgrade over last year's S9 Plus. But all in all, we aren't seeing anything groundbreaking here. These are, in my opinion, marginal upgrades at best that might offer a slightly snappier feeling phone at first, but the S10 Plus just isn't going to blow the S9 Plus out of the water, especially since both devices now run Samsung's One UI. Performance-wise, I don't necessarily see the need to upgrade unless perhaps you want to future-proof your phone for 4 to 5 years and go with the top-of-the-line S10 Plus model. One of the bigger internal upgrades the S10 Plus did receive this year though is with the battery. 4100 mAh capacity compared to 3500 mAh from last year, year. And this is actually the most significant battery capacity increase we've seen from Samsung's flagship line in the last couple of years. Overall, this does translate to potentially up to an hour more of screen on time on a single charge in some cases, with the S10 Plus easily outlasting the S9 Plus. The extra hour or so of battery isn't necessarily reason to upgrade, but at least right now, I'm not sure of any other device that can beat the S10 Plus. And obviously, day-to-day use with the phone means different results for different people, so keep that in mind as well. Battery life is sometimes tough to gauge and is very objective because while I personally don't do anything all that intense with my phones and can get nearly 12 hours of screen on time, you might not get anywhere near that. The S10 Plus also received a brand new charging feature that the S9 Plus did not have, and that's wireless power share. What this means is you can actually use the S10 Plus to wirelessly charge another device just by resting it on the phone. It's not the fastest charging method in the world, but it's still an interesting and pretty convenient way to charge up a device in need when you're on the go. If wireless charging is your thing though, the S10 Plus gets the new fast wireless charging 2.0 standard coupled with Samsung's new charging pad. You can juice up about 30% faster with this setup, so if you're living that cable-free life, this should be a little bit better with a new phone. Last but not least, probably the biggest change with the S10 Plus has to do with both the front and rear cameras. Up front, obviously, you now have two lenses, including a new 8-megapixel RGB depth camera, and this dual lens front-facing camera setup is specific to just the S10 Plus model, and it does not come with the S10 or S10e. Samsung says the additional lens up front helps with AR effects and filters, and also improves live focus as well with new blur and bokeh effects. You also now get 4K video recording up front as well. The rear setup on the S10 Plus includes a new third lens, an ultra-wide angle shooter with a 123-degree field of view. This allows for not only super wide shots to let you capture more, but also better live focus pictures as well when combined with the other lenses. All in all, personally, I don't find the S10 Plus to be a massive upgrade over the S9 Plus. The biggest things here, in my opinion, are the changes to the display, increase in battery life, and upgrades to the cameras, with all the other upgrades and features being negligible at best. If you're on an S8 device or older, then this would definitely be a worthwhile upgrade. So there you go. Hopefully this helps you guys out a bit if you are deciding whether or not to upgrade to the S10 or S10 Plus. But I hope you guys did enjoy this video, and I'll see you guys later.